Hello again, everybody. This is Red of Half Century Collecting Sports Cards, featuring some of my favorite cards. These were the ones that we picked last week. Included a Exhibit Harry Heilman in there, and we got a Philadelphia Eagles card because that was Super Bowl Sunday when they won it all, of Steve Van Buren. It's my pick from the 51 Bowman. We got an Eddie Roush from a strip card, and a 57 Mays and a 68 Mantle. So hopefully you're going to like the cards I chose today. I got 5 more featured cards, and this one, get out of that little glare. This is a Raymond Brown from 1945-46 Carmelo Deportiva set. Candy sports cards coming out of Cuba. This is the first real post-war set that came out in Cuba. Now, Cuba did fight in World War II on the Allies side as well. Played a big role actually in the Caribbean with their Navy and their Air Force. And right after the war, things were building back, and cards weren't a priority. So this year, 47, you had some regional issues like Tip Top Bread, and then 48, things hit a little bigger with the Bowman set, and Leaf, whether it was probably more 49-ish. But this year, in the winter of 45-46, when they played winter ball in Cuba, they came out with a set, and it featured a lot of the guys that played in Cuba, and one of those was Negro Leaguer Ray Brown. Now, Ray's a Hall of Fame pitcher from the Homestead Grays. In fact, he was their ace, and the Grays were kind of like the Yankees, the dominant team, and a lot of it because they had, just some great hitters. Vic Harris was their longtime manager and leadoff hitter. He was on the Hall of Fame ballot this last year. Cool Papa Bell came in later as a speedy leadoff hitter, but their main two guys, the Gehrig and Ruth, they're 3-4 hitters. Buck Leonard and Josh Gibson, a couple of the best Negro Leaguers of all time, both early Hall of Famers. I think they were actually the second and third from the Negro League to get into the Hall of Fame. But Ray Brown was their main pitcher for a long time, and he pitched with the Grays from 32 to 45. So this is the end of his career, this 45-46 card. Just, kind of right before integration happened. So Ray Brown missed out on that, but great Negro League pitcher. He had a 14-0 season in the Negro Leagues. He had an 11-3 season, a 17-2 season. Led the league in strikeouts 3 times, wins 5 times, ERA and WAR a couple of times. And in this 14-0 season that he had in 1938, he won the Triple Crown of pitching, was also the WAR leader in the Negro Leagues. And then he had a 17-2 season in 1940. That season, 2.07 ERA to lead the league again. And he had 6.8 WAR, which led the Negro Leagues. That's a lot of WAR for, playing about 60 game schedule, less than half of what the major leagues were playing. In fact, in his career, he had 38.2 WAR, which is higher than some of the other guys in there who were playing 154 games a season. They were getting counted for 60, 70 games maybe a season. He had 119 career wins with just 42 losses. Again, helped by being on great teams. But he was a really good pitcher. Had they said really good curveball. Had a big arsenal of a lot of different kinds of pitches. And you see the back of the card. This was pasted into an album, most likely. So a lot of paper loss on just, it's a really thin card even to start. But I think a pretty cool card. Hard to find, not a lot out there of Hall of Fame pitcher Ray Brown. All right, second on the list for the day, we've got a leaders card. This is, I think, my only league leaders card that's making this top 400, but it's the card that's got Clemente, Aaron, and Mays on it. The only one that's got all 3. There's a lot with 2 of these 3, but this is the only one with all 3 of them. Now, when I was a kid, 11, 12, 13 years old, trying to buy older cards of these guys. These three and Mickey Mantle were the highest priced cards. They listed as common prices, and then they had star prices that were 5 times. They had superstars, which were guys like Bob Gibson, Rod Carew, Harmon Killebrew, that were 10 times common prices. And then there were 4 guys, Mickey Mantle, Roberto Clemente, Hank Aaron, and Willie Mays, that were 15 times the common price. And there was at least one company that kind of went by that. And I know we bought, as many cards as we could afford, what we called old cards of these guys from the 50s and 60s. But I just think this is a cool leaders card that happens to have all 3 of them on it. And I like the backs of these league leader cards in these days that, went all the way down to guys who hit 245. So just a cool card. Okay, next we are going to show a Diamond Stars card. And this is a guy who, at one time, in fact, 1976, they came out in 1976 with these Sporting News. This is from the top set. All-time best players at each position. And most of them, I think they did a good job of who they picked. Guys like Rogers Hornsby, Honest Wagner, Babe Ruth. Could have argued for Willie Mays over Ty Cobb. Ted Williams in left. You got Walter Johnson. You had Lou Gehrig. They're at first base. But the third baseman they picked should have been this guy. At that time, Eddie Matthews. I think Mike Schmidt probably passed him, but not in 76. But they went with a guy who, when I did my all-time top third baseman, wasn't even on the top 10. But he was a really good player. And that is Traynor, who spent his whole career playing with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And he never really had a great season, just a lot of really good seasons. He played from 1920 to 35, so this is the end of his career. But I really like this card. I just think it looks cool. It's a great pose of a guy with a cool name, Traynor. See the back of his Diamond Star card. Probably why I got that 2 grades. Got some writing on the back, which I don't really care about. But otherwise, I think it's just a gorgeous looking card. Guy who hit 320 in his career. Had a lot of triples, like 150 some triples, but only hit 58 home runs. So not a power guy, but a decent fielding third baseman. He did have a really good World Series, a 1925 World Series, when the Pirates beat the Washington Senators. That World Series, he did hit a homer, a couple triples, had like a 360-something batting average. Traynor. Career, he only had 38 career WARs, so about the same as Ray Brown, where they had more than twice as many games in each season. But still Hall of Famer, Traynor. All right, next card we are going to feature. We're going to go to football. And we have got a Gale Sayers. So one of the best, most elusive running backs of all time, the Kansas Comet was what they call him. Unfortunately, a really short career due to ACL tears in both knees. One of those happened in this 68 season, and he came back in 69. This is a 69 Topps card. And still led the league in rushing after rehabbing a torn ACL and days before they had surgery for ACLs. So pretty impressive. Unfortunately, then the next year he tore his other knee, and that was pretty much the end of his career. But I love this card with the pink background, and good running back. You can see this year here he got injured. He was averaging 6.2 yards a carry the time he got injured. Little cartoon there shows in his rookie season game where he had 6 touchdowns in one game. Led the league that year with 22 touchdowns. Had over 2,200 total yards. Unfortunately, a really short career. He's also known as being just a really good friend of Brian Piccolo, running back who died of leukemia. In fact, Sayers ended up writing a book called I Am Third that ended up being made into a movie, Brian's Song, which is one of the probably more famous, better movies of all time. But Gale Sayers. Actually, I want to show something of Gale Sayers here too. We got a little video clip. I'm gonna get up. All right, let's roll it.
He was very elusive. Unlike, like, let's say, Jim Brown, who was, you know, he carried about 14 people on his back. When he ran, it was like watching one person turn into two people.
In 1965, the Kansas Comet had the 49ers seeing double when he blazed across a rain-soaked Wrigley Field, scoring 6 touchdowns to tie the NFL single-game record.
Give me 18 inches of daylight. That's all I need.
All right, Gale Sayers. So let's go to our last pick of the day. And this is another guy who had a really short career. Took the baseball world by storm in 1976. And that is Mark Fidrich. And this is his 67 rookie card coming off of that big rookie season. Get this thing in focus a little better there. There we go. But Mark the Bird Fidrich, what a year he had, that 76 season. And he ended up, I think he started the All-Star game that year, won 19 games, had a 2.34 earned run average, which you can see there on the back of his card, Sporting News AL, rookie pitcher of the year, as well as being the All-Star. Unfortunately, shoulder injuries after that cut his career really short, but I wanted to show a little bit of Mark Fidrich here on film as well at the time. So I was 11 years old that season.
Really getting a kick and reacting to Fidrich. They've got to be in love with this young man, no question about it.
So he loved the antics. He talked to the baseball all the time. He patted the mound.
Tiger Stadium. I thought they were going to break it down.
Can you imagine the hand Fidrich is going to receive in the top of the 9th inning?
This is
The
a
9th
Monday
inning
night
began.
game.
Fidrich and the Tigers had a 5-1
Probably
lead.
where I first actually got to watch him.
And the fans are standing
Summer
for
rights.
Fidrich.
Yeah.
I still remember watching that from beginning to end. Every pitch you're on the edge of your seat. It's just unforgettable.
2 down on the right. Yes. See, I've seen a lot of ball games played, and I've caught a few. I don't think I've ever seen a
He was
pitcher
only
this keyed
21
up.
years old.
I'm watching it like I don't know how the ending's going to be. Finish it up.
The fans ready to explode. Here's your pitch. Ground ball should be the ball game. It's over.
He knows he beat the Yankees.
And the Tigers act like Fidrich has just won the 7th game of the World Series.
He has. He's won 7 in a row. He is some kind of unbelievable young Mark Fidrich.
And we're just going to go out.
The crowd, I
As
noticed, didn't
this little
leave.
clip ends. So
I said, they're not going to leave until he comes back out of the dugout.
They were screaming, "We want the bird, we want the bird." And I said, he's got to come back out here.
The fans want him to come back. The fans are calling for him to come back.
I said, "Mark, you got to put that shirt back on, son. You got something to do." I told him, I said, "You're going to go up those stairs to tip your hat." He says, "Come on, you're going to make me do this? You got to come up with me." I said, "They're not screaming, 'We want the bird' and Rusty. They're screaming, 'We want the bird.'" It was exhilarating. I am not kidding you. It was just so great.
And here he comes. Here he comes. Oh, this is unbelievable. He loves him. Look at that. Shaking the policeman's hand. Look at that.
It's like
had a
this
Sports
seismic
Illustrated
wave
cover
of
that
emotion.
year. I remember
It's
him and
just
the
this
bird,
roar,
big bird.
and you can see
I
he
had
can
on my
barely
wall,
stand upright.
cut out of the
This kid is terrific. I've been in baseball 35 years. I have never in my life ever seen anything to equal this.
That doesn't happen. We just don't do that. You know, the game-winning hit or the star of the game gets interviewed on the field, salutes the fans, and then you don't see him again. But for Mark Fidrich, just couldn't get enough.
All right. Thanks for watching. These were the cards we showed, and hope to see you again next week.